Welcome to the Bearing It All podcast, where we dive deep into the backstories of celebrities, CEOs, and multi-million and billion-dollar entrepreneurs. There are no rules as we aspire to inspire by sharing real experiences, triumphant comebacks, and what the road to success really looks like. It's all about the grit behind the glamour. All right, great. Welcome to the Bearing It All podcast. This episode is going to be so hot. I've got Byron Holman here, a real estate investor. He's one of the co-founders of BOB, Business Over Breakfast on Clubhouse, one of my favorite rooms to go into. It is so rich with value, and also podcast host of No Stingy Energy and a good friend of mine. Byron, welcome to Bearing It All. How are you?
I am great. I'm just so lucky to be here. I'm just happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course, we're going to have a really good time, but I'm kicking off this by saying, first and foremost, congratulations to you. Your fiance is gorgeous and you just proposed. I had no idea because I was trolling you. So congratulations.
Appreciate that. I'm a lucky man. I got to say,
I'm going to agree with you. She is gorgeous and I want her skincare regimen. That's what I want.
That's funny.
Whatever she's doing, I'm buying. That's all. So she might be my next guest. I'm really happy for you. So congratulations. When's the wedding?
Next year around March is the plan, but we may push it back because she has some extra ideas that she may have to sort out. So, I don't get in the way of that, Barbara. I stay clear, right? I just say yes. And I send her the money. That's it. That's the deal.
Listen, you're going to make a great husband. You are going to make a great husband. Well, congratulations. And I'm so excited to dive into how you got to where you are today. One key component that I think my audience is really going to appreciate is that you are actually, your degree and your background is in medicine. Am I correct?
That is correct.
You were a nurse. Tell me about that first chapter and why you switched and how you made that move. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, you want the raw version or the politically correct version?
I do not want any politically correct. This is Bearing It All. I want to know. Yeah.
Okay,
take it off, baby. Take it off.
So, Barbara, I ended up becoming a nurse. That was not a part of the original plan. Let's be honest there. I ended up going to jail, right? I got a drug case by way of a friend of mine, took him to the store. And of course, I was kind of in and out of, the neighborhood, so to speak. And so as a result of that, he ended up getting caught with drugs on him. And I did as well. Wow. Because I was leaving that particular spot and they caught me too. And so this whole time I'm thinking to myself, okay, Byron, what's going on here? So in that time period, as I was going through jail, fighting the case and trying to, get my innocence, I ended up getting a job at a hospital, working at a psychiatric hospital. And the nurses would always pour into me. A lot of the Nigerian nurses would always pour into me yo, you need to go and be a nurse and you need to go and do this. And I was like, a nurse? Are you serious? And eventually I started to take them up on it. And I ended up beating the case, getting into nursing school, passing nursing school, getting into the ICU. Then I got into upper management and administration. And at the end, I was running the entire hospital. It was a 168 bed facility. And I was one of the head administrators at that particular facility. And that was my nursing career. That was pretty much worked out.
First of all, I had no idea, and there's so much in there because number one, your guardian angels clearly were directing you in another way. I feel like, my son got a huge speeding ticket and he was all embarrassed and all shameful. And I was like, you better thank your guardian angels because they stopped you and before you killed somebody, before you got things out. So I'm hearing this story and thinking, Wow, your guardian angels knew you had more in you and they made you go through this so you could say to yourself, this isn't who I am. And then your Nigerian nurses, they were your second set of guardian angels. And that's right. It's like one
They
set
saved me.
passed you off to the next set.
They saved me. And I would say the most important thing that I got out of that, Barbara, was the fact that I almost had to give myself permission to divorce myself from other people's opinions. And it was, because prior to that, I probably wouldn't have ever became a nurse, right? That's just something that was not in my deck of cards, right?
Yeah.
But it was when I was able to divorce the opinions of others, it opened up a tremendous amounts of doors for me. And, from nursing to real estate investing to now, podcasting, helping others, right? It's just opened up so many doors as a result of that one decision.
That's so good. I just wrote that down and I hope we clip it for social media because too many people take too long to abandon the weight of other people's opinions. And what I find so fascinating, I find you very fascinating, but I find you very smart. I find you to be an excellent listener. So for all my listeners, I do know Byron through Clubhouse and we have met in person. So this isn't our first time together. But what I've garnered from the time that we've spent together is that you really do know what you're talking about. And when you don't, you ask probing questions because you want to understand it. So this is a fascinating part of you that I never knew, yet is such an important part because it redirected you. It didn't let you, the world, the universe, whatever you want to look at it, totally, whatever, did not watch you on that trajectory and took you off. How old were you when you got arrested?
Oh, I was like in my late 20s. I was in my late 20s when I got arrested.
It's funny because you still look like you're in your late 20s.
I wish. Late 20s. And it was such a game changer because I had been, and I'll be honest with you, throughout my life, I've always kind of figured out a way to kind of be successful at the things that I did. And I think when I got caught, right, I think that was probably one of my most arrogant places that I'd been. I was successful. Things were working for me, even though I had my hands in a bunch of different things. I had group homes. Go figure. I had group homes. I had just all of the things. It was all working. And I got caught because I want to say that I probably got a little sloppy, got a little too trusting. And as a result of that, I had to face those consequences, and I'm grateful for those consequences because those consequences helped me to never forget to keep my eye on the ball, right? Mm-hmm. Stay grounded. Just like what you said, ask those questions when you don't know, don't assume, and continue to learn and be humble, right? Move with a humble spirit, even though I'm very confident. I'm as confident as they get, but at the same time, I try to maintain a certain level of humbleness about myself because the arrogance comes right before a fall. And I saw that firsthand. So.
Yeah, it's staying curious allows you to stay humble. But no, we can still have the utmost confidence, but it has to be modulated. Otherwise, it does walk us down a slippery slope. But clearly, you're able to do well in any vertical. I'm just grateful it was more on the up and up. I mean, that's pretty impressive, because it was your late 20s. So the world was saying like, okay, now Byron's got more. I just get so much. I get so much value going into your rooms on Clubhouse. That business over breakfast, I have grown through the questions that you've asked, the people that you align with, really some of the brightest people I have gotten to know. So listen, I'm grateful that you're not behind bars. Oh, I know what I wanted to say, Byron. I bet you are too, and so is your fiance. Yeah. It's similar to when I went through cancer. It's almost like you have these moments in your life, these inflection points, right? Where you had to look at like, if I don't clear this case or whatever you want to say, or get let off or whatever language you use, that path sucks. Like you were going to jail, and sometimes you need to be confronted with consequences, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what, that I have to assume that, but I just have to encourage you to tell that story more often, because I think some people get caught in narratives of, well, I'm just this is just me. And you have changed your career. The
Yes.
Byron Holman story is a work in progress. Talk to me about, now you're in real estate and you're killing it. And I'm reading that you're doing build to rent properties.
Yeah.
That is that's called generational wealth building, ladies and gentlemen. Tell me how and why you left medicine and how you got into real estate.
Yeah, so I've always been an entrepreneur at heart, right? Sometimes on the up and up, sometimes not so much on the up and up, as we found out. But when I made that full transition, right, to nursing, it opened my eyes up to a lot bigger opportunities, bigger stuff. And I went directly into wholesaling originally, and we've made millions in wholesaling real estate. But one thing I realized about actively participating on that side of the business is that it is very active, it's cyclical, it has ups and downs, a lot of peaks and valleys. And when, it's easy, you're making a lot of money, but when you got payroll, I got 18 employees, I got a lot of things going on, right?
Jeez.
So, yeah, it's crazy. And it didn't take long. If the market dips or something goes wrong, you're scratching your head like, wait a minute, I had, a lot of money, but, I'm spending a lot of money now. And so as a result of that, I just started realizing more and more, and I got cooler with Grant and different people have just kind of start pouring into me. I'm like, why am I working this hard? I'd rather work hard one time or invest big one time and just receive a small amount of cash flow over time and build wealth over time than just always be chasing the next buck. And so my philosophy now with transitioning into build to rent is more so, hey, I'm gonna, I want to own this stuff and I want to, get this residual income, even if it's not as much income as I'm used to. At least it's going to be consistent. It's going to come, and I can slowly build it to where I would want it to be. And so that's my philosophy.
And you're playing the long game, because if you're this is just going to end up constantly creating cash flow. But how did you leave a nice cushy job? Because being in healthcare, you're not an entrepreneur. You're getting paid. You got health benefits. You got a couple weeks paid vacation. How did you make that leap, and when? How and when?
So, I'll be honest with you. It was, after I made $100,000 a month, and then when you do $100,000 a month, and then you move to $100,000 a week, it's like, wait a minute, like what are we doing here, right? So. You start making some decisions. But I would say even beyond that, though, it was more so, nursing is one of those things that's going to always be with me. Even to this day, I still will pick up some shifts to keep my license active, because it was just my saving grace. And I don't think I'll ever fully put it down, because I ended up kind of gaining a little bit of an appreciation for that service aspect of it, for just, helping people through some of their most vulnerable moments. And so I'll never quit. So I'm committed to that for life. And so that's just one of my things. I like to give back in that way. So every now and then
there's so much power in that. There's so much power, because it was really your Nigerian little guardian angels, right? It's almost your way of, there's some full circle in there. That's really powerful. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'm feeling the power of the nurses right now as you're saying that.
Yeah, I love it. You know what I mean? It's just a dope. It's just something dope about it, especially when you're doing it when you don't have to do it. You know what I mean? And you're just doing it, because you want to do it. It's the difference. But even beyond that,
it's a difference. Work
Even
like you
beyond
don't need the money. Yeah.
exactly. Even beyond that, I transitioned over to build to rent because I know that after I kind of started doing rehabs and different things of that nature, I learned that, you know what, I can build something literally at the investment with the same investment criteria that I would go into a flip or a renovation or something like that, and still go into it with a massive amount of equity, right? Because a lot of stuff that I'm building this stuff at anywhere from 50% equity coming in to about 70% equity. And that's a hell of a deal. And I'm able to cash flow as a result of that. So, I'm like, this is easy. And I'm already getting access to a lot of some of the best properties, the best deals. We're buying stuff at 50 cents on a dollar, 20, 30 cents on a dollar, ridiculous stuff because I have a wholesale company. So that gives me the ability to interface directly with the sellers. So a lot of stuff, like I have 22 doors going up in the next 6 months. I have a small apartment complex I'm building, Barbara. It's about 12 units that I'm building. Then I have like 4 other duplexes or so going up. And all of this stuff I bought from my wholesale company, pennies on the dollar, and I'm going to build this stuff with my own money. I don't have any other partners, anything like that. And we have another big deal that we're doing. Is it could be potentially 96 units. We're going back and forth. I will be looking for partners on that one. And we're already up 250 grand just in equity, just with the land purchase alone. So it's ridiculous. So, and we're going to, when we build that, we're going to be looking for partners, of course, but it just goes to show, because it'll be 96 units. It'd be probably about $11 million asset. And it's just, those are the types of things that we're able to do, right? Just because I have a wholesale company, we find crazy deals.
And you're in Texas. What part?
In Texas, Houston, Texas.
Everybody wants to go to Texas at this point.
Yes, indeed.
Including yours truly. I don't know if they let Jersey girls in Texas.
Oh, yeah. You definitely love the freedom. We got a lot of freedoms out here, especially for entrepreneurs, for sure.
Oh, my God. And maybe I have big hair. Bigger the hair, the closer to God. I love hearing this. I want to ask you something. What kind of what advice would you give to someone that is, that wants to make the moves that you made? They're, maybe working a job, it's run its course, but they have that pull to being an entrepreneur. What advice do you have for people that really are looking to shift gears and, provide, start moving into that generational wealth, not just make money, but make it rain?
Yes, indeed. I would say this, this is what I would tell everybody. And I do actually tell everybody. And when I run across different travel nurses and different things like that, I definitely let them know as well. Listen, get you a property, right? Don't have to be fancy. It don't have to be the best. Just get one, right? And what you want to do is, and I would say at least one every 2 years or so, they're making a ton of money out here in the medical field. Just get a property. And then what you'll do is you'll use one of the properties. You can use that as like a short-term rental, right? And if you have that active income, you can offset your taxes. Okay. So that's key. You can offset your W-2 taxes. Okay. Just with that one asset. And I'm talking about ridiculous amounts of savings, almost to the point to where you're not going to be paying taxes. And this is not tax advice, for instance.
Larry West. Yes.
The next thing that you want to do is you want to get a regular just rental property so you can also offset even more of your taxes. And if you did this little by little, you don't have to be an expert. All you're doing is you're buying an asset for the down payment, maybe 10, maybe 15, $20,000 for the down payment, right? And you find somebody else to pay that bill by way of either a short-term rental or a long-term tenant, and let them pay the bill and invest in your retirement. And at worst, you'll end up with a couple $1 million in assets that are all paid off by the time you're ready to retire. Plus you'll have your 401k, right? And before you know it, you have this massive portfolio of a couple $1 million and all paid off real estate assets that you could either sell, you could keep, you could pass down, you could sell one to pay off some college tuitions, whatever that may be. But at least if you do that bare minimum, if you're making anywhere within the range of, I would say 80 to 120 grand a year, that's a definite strategy that you should employ. And that's with or without specialized knowledge and education.
I think that's phenomenal. Yeah, I think it's phenomenal. I think, Byron, what I see, I don't know if you see this, but I think there's this generation of all flash, no cash. And I love this messaging of, don't buy the Hermes bag. Don't buy the things that aren't going to produce cash flow. And not enough of this messaging is going out. Social media is literally pummeling all this next generation of like, get the car, get the girl, get the, jazzed up face and all that. And it's so, this podcast, I know who I'm sending it to as soon as it's released. Anyway, that's off the record, but yeah, this is such great advice. What if you could go back in time and tell Byron in his 20s, give Byron some advice in his 20s, would you change a thing, or what would you say to 20, let's say 24-year-old Byron?
I would say to 24-year-old Byron, humble yourself. Number one, time is the most expensive resource that we have. I wish I could have spent a lot less time worried about other people's opinions and living to please others. I was flashy. I had all of the things, and I would have invested more of my time and my income into cash flow producing assets. Because what I've realized, even though I've made a lot of money in active real estate investing, which I quasi kind of look at as more like a job, it's the things that I own, Barbara, that are going to make the biggest difference in my life. And, I would tell myself back then, listen, Byron, hey, stupid, listen, invest that money in some cash flow producing assets.
I almost wish you got arrested earlier. If you think about that, exactly. You send that cop to get me. I'm 24 instead of 29.
Exactly. It would have been a whole lot better.
I love what you're saying about time, because, time is our biggest commodity. And, I think people waste a lot of time on all the wrong things. And now you're getting married, you're getting into real estate. What does the next 5 years look like for you?
Well, I want to have at least 300 doors. And that's going to be by way of building or buying these assets. So, right now in the next 6 months, I have the little small apartment complex, a couple of duplexes going up. And then next year we have the 96 unit we're looking to build. It's about 4 minutes away from Bush Airport. And, and after that, we're just going to be buying more land and building more likely. Yeah.
I love it. Now, a lot of people have a lot of the sky is falling because we're heading into a recession. I don't know. Maybe we're are we in a recession? I don't know. What advice do you have for people that that are kind of the sky is falling people? Talk to the sky is falling people.
Absolutely. So we talked about this a little bit today. So I would say for investors, this is the perfect time to invest. The perfect time. Because of that exact same thing that you just said, the sky's falling, people are out there. And as a result of that, we're able to negotiate better pricing, right? And at the end of the day, don't worry about the interest rates. Worry about the price that you're buying that asset at. And just recognize, again, time is very expensive. And over time, real estate always is worth more in the long run. So use time as your leverage, right? And buy those deals now. And just recognize that as long as you're buying those properties under value, you're always going to be all right.
I totally agreed. And what I'm hearing is you are messaging something very consistent, which is play the long game and real estate consistently over the long haul. But if you're looking for get rich quick and if you're emotional about the tides of the economy, then this isn't a sport for you, right? Am I wrong? Because you had mentioned everything is cyclical and things like all of a sudden like aren't the value changes. Talk to us about that, because I personally see a lot of people getting very emotional and don't have the intestinal fortitude to withstand the tough times. They're like they think life is all about, I don't know, cold beers and loud music and big parties all the time. It's not like that. But let's talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. It's funny. I harken back to the conversation I had with Brian Benstock, actually, one of my, business leader mentors. Mm-hmm. I was talking to Brian about some issues I was having in my company where, I had to let some people go, right? A lot of people go. And that was painful because, the market has changed. And, of course, we've grown to know these people. And when you have a small company, Barbara, it's a lot harder to make those kind of decisions because, it's almost like a family, right? And, and also you're having to hold even the people who had it a little bit easier, more accountable, right? And you're having uncomfortable conversations about, hitting metrics and hitting numbers. And if you don't, this is going to happen and all that kind of stuff. And, I just kind of learned from Brian, it's not a popularity contest, right? As a leader, we have to make those rough decisions. And it just comes along with it. Yeah, of course, entrepreneurship looks good on social media, looks great, right? But trust me, when you're having to make calls to let some people go and you're knowing that, this is their primary source of income, that's no fun. That's not the part you see on social media, though.
And that's why I want to have these conversations. Like, I think we have to have realistic expectations about every endeavor that we have in life. And you can't keep people around because guess what? You're compromising the integrity of your entire team. So instead of letting one person go, you're about ready to let 20 people go or 18 people go if you don't, really make decisions in everybody's best interest. So I really applaud you because it's doing what's right isn't always what's easy. And again, it is not a popularity contest. None of us are coming out without haters. Maybe you are. I don't know.
I have definitely my fair share for sure.
Let's talk about that because how do you handle haters?
Thank God I have learned to associate myself, Barbara, with people that are builders. And typically builders are so focused on themselves that they don't have time to hate as much. Mm-hmm. And so as a result of that, I don't experience a lot of the negative effects of the haters. So I still have the haters, but by the time they've gotten to the place to where they want to position their spirit in that way, I've already moved on. I'm on to the next. I'm connecting with Barbara. I'm connecting with Ben. I'm connecting with Nelson or whoever else is in my purview that I'm looking to build with. So I disassociate myself from people who, how do I say this in a nice way? I don't think I can say it in a nice way.
Don't say it, just say it.
I disassociate myself with people who are not useful, right? In whatever period of my life where I'm headed. Okay. And the reason why I do that is twofold. And I know that sounds bad, but here's the thing. If you don't, a lot of times they're going to pull at you, right? For you to come back because that's their comfort zone and your collective comfort zone. And so either they're going to pull on you to bring you back to a level of homeostasis or they're going to hate on you. And so I'd rather neither. So I just try and keep the relationship from the friendship standpoint intact by checking in on them from time to time. But I disassociate myself from them in terms of having daily conversations. And I try to associate myself with the people that I am more in alignment with at that particular time to get whatever goal I'm trying to get accomplished for as far as having day-to-day conversations, if that makes sense.
It makes a total sense. A drowning man is always going to bring you down. And you'll never see somebody like, let's say, Grant Cardone or John Legere, some of the people we have in common, myself, even Brian. We're not going to sit and troll people and write nasty comments. We're not going to send them nasty DMs. We have already established time is our most valuable commodity. And unless it's making us happy or making us money, we are never going to do something like that. That is just so below. We have such a high value of how we're spending our most precious asset. So you start looking at that. And if you want what those people have, you have to do what those people have, right? You have to do what successful people have. And what they do is not waste their time. They optimize their time. Every minute is spent in places and spaces where they're of value, where they do extract happiness or money. So I love these conversations because what I try to do for the audience here is just help them understand that we all battle the same things. We all have the same fears, leaving, one career to go to another, or, employing people and being an entrepreneur is all glitzy and everything, but it does come with it comes with some tough stuff. What are some other things that you have encountered that have maybe made you question all your life choices as an entrepreneur?
It's funny. It's funny because what you realize in business that it's no safe space, right? And just because it worked last year doesn't mean that it's going to work this year. Just because it looks good on a business plan doesn't mean that that's the way it's going to, come to, act itself out. And so what I've learned is that I have to always be learning, right? And you're never able to kind of rest it as a leader in a business. You're never really given the opportunity to rest on what you've already done or what has already been accomplished. The moment you get comfortable resting on what has always worked, you're already getting passed up. And so now I just focus my energy on trying to be around. That's why I love Business Over Breakfast so much, because I'm constantly getting infused, right, with new information, right? New thought processes, new ways to kind of approach business, right? And I just soak all of that information up. That way I'm never kind of left holding the bag on what used to be.
It's so true. That's what I'm loving about Clubhouse. And you were talking on social media, actually. You had made some comments about segregation and social media and, what that brought about, which I found very fascinating. And, yes. Can you speak to that a little bit more? Do you remember
Absolutely.
That? Yeah.
Yes. That's real dear to me too. I appreciate that. Social media has kind of been like that equal, that common denominator, especially in the Black community, right? So what happened, Barbara, when, I'd say like in the 1960s, right? When Blacks started to kind of, it was a separation, right? The ones who were a little bit more educated and were a little bit more, well-to-do about themselves, they left, right? And they moved into, white neighborhoods, right? Or whatever neighborhoods that they moved to, it was definitely away from the hood, right? And as a result of that, it kind of created a almost like a brain vacuum, in a sense, to where all of the mentors, all of the people who would have been the mentors, the leaders in those communities were no longer there. So it was like just all of the worst on this side, and the best and the most brilliant minds, they just left and they abandoned that area. And what social media has done, Barbara, is it's almost created a communication between the well-to-do Blacks, right, and the ones that are in the hood still. And now they're able to kind of communicate with each other in this new, cool way. And what I'm witnessing as a result of the things like what we do on BLB and a lot of other platforms, Earn Your Leisure, different things of that nature, is now this information is starting to kind of trickle down back to those areas. And we're able to kind of find more common ground in those areas. And it's an amazing thing. And I'm witnessing happen in my lifetime. I'm so grateful that I was able to be a part of it, and I'm able to kind of communicate with people that I probably wouldn't talk to because I probably wouldn't go to their neighborhoods, right? And talk to them specifically, whether that be for safety issues, whether that be for whatever my issues would be, right?
Proximity, yeah.
Proximity, so I'm able to have those conversations without having to be directly there. And that's just phenomenal to me.
I am fascinated by this conversation because I can relate to it in a different way. But you're not wrong. You're tracking 100%. What social media, or specifically these drop-in audio apps such as Clubhouse, has enabled me to do is build alliances with people that I wouldn't naturally gravitate, maybe not gravitate towards me, but I'm finding like this kinship, like, you and so many others on Clubhouse that I don't think we would have like saddled up to each other at a cocktail party. I don't know, maybe would have made some niceties, but then gone into our, circles. And I'm going to share this. I used to say this, I'm in Princeton. I hang out with people that look like me, dress like me, walk like me, talk like me, all the things. I would say to my now ex-husband, I was like, I don't fit in here. I'm like, and he'd be like, I don't get it. I'm like, it's just a feeling. I'm like, I feel like I don't know what I feel like, but I always said, I don't fit in because I'm a self-made person. So that's another story. But first time, what you're saying is like this proximity to like-minded, inspiring people, right? Like I'm like inspired. The things that you talk about in BOB, I'm like, this is so good. Like and you allow me to saddle up to the table. I don't have to go hang out with the people that necessarily look like me, walk like me, talk like me. I'm like, I want to be over there in BOB because they're talking about things that pique my curiosity. But I have to be honest, I don't think naturally I would have gravitated because I would have felt like, well, these are my people. But now I'm like, no, these are my people. And that's what this audio app has created. It's like, oh my God, I am in a tribe of misfit toys and I love it.
Yes, indeed.
Right?
I love that. I love that you said that because it's so true. Barbara, it's so true. It created a space where we can get to know people, right? Outside of the politically correct version or the representative that we show up with. Right. We're able to kind of display ourselves without having to be the representative. Right. And that's powerful. It's so powerful what that app has done. And just imagine what is happening, right, in those poor neighborhoods, right, where they're able to connect into YouTube, connecting to Clubhouse, connecting to all of these other different apparatus, social media apparatus, and gain and communicate these different ideas, knowledge, perspectives, all of these different things. And it's just like a conglomerate of just information, good information.
And it's there for the taking.
Yeah.
It's there for the taking. And that's what, now I'm, talking with my new boyfriend. So it's been a few years, but I'm like, it's a place when he's like, oh, you're on Clubhouse. And I'm like, it's a place I fit in. I feel like I belong over there. These conversations are interesting. And you know what it is, Byron? I think it's because we first meet through listening because we're not staring at our phones. We're like walking around, we're listening. And I'm like, well, who's that? That was really interesting. So without seeing the person and judging them for the veneer that they show up with, right? That, what did you call them? The representative. We don't see the representative. We actually hear the thoughts of the real person. And then we scroll and we're like, oh, okay, great. I'll follow them. Let me put the bell on. I want to hear more. So I completely, I'm aligned with you. And I think your conversation about really bridging the gap for different socioeconomic groups is so powerful. I'm great that I just learned something new and I'm going to mull on that for a little bit. So before I wrap this up, I've got one last question for you. How would you like to be remembered?
Wow, that's a good one. I would like to be remembered as a person who had no stingy energy, who gave back, who helped a lot of people create massive amounts of wealth. And that's it. Listen, I'll be taken care of because I'm driven, but ultimately I want to make a massive impact. I want to be known as the person who helped a lot of people create a lot of wealth for themselves, and was that person that gave them that was able to help spark that idea in that next person that created, the next great thing. That's what I want to be known for.
Well, you're already doing it. And I know you're going to also help people change the trajectory of your life just through your story and your truth and your integrity and your constant curiosity. I think you're an unbelievable person. I am so grateful our paths have crossed. Where can everybody find you and your podcast?
Yes, indeed. So you can check me out on Instagram, Byron the Investor, and the No Stingy Energy podcast. It's on YouTube. It's on Apple, all of the things. Spotify. So definitely tap in. That's it right there. And you'll hear some of the most spirited conversations. You'll hear Barbara. You hear Brian. You'll hear all of the people, Grant Cardone. You'll hear all of those conversations there. And we just kicked this off. We're growing, and I'm having fun. This is just the beginning, Barbara.
Just the beginning. And you'll hear voices that maybe don't have celebrity names right now, but are celebrities in my heart because they are bright. They bring great value, and they don't need their name in lights, but man, they are the people you want to hear. So make sure you check out and follow Byron. I appreciate you so much, Byron. I cannot wait to meet up again in person. And thank you for joining us here at the Bearing It All podcast.
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Bearing It All podcast, where we explore what it means to live your best life. To stay connected, go to barbaramajeski.com and leave us your email. We'll keep you posted on all that it means to have the health, wealth, and happiness that you deserve.